Hi, we work with a lot of teachers at Steamlabs, and since we teach AI education, we get the question a lot of how can we teach chatbots and generative AI and text LLMs to kids in a safe way. It's impacting their world in a huge way, and there's irresponsible uses and there's responsible uses, and it's changing so many different aspects of society. It's really important to learn about this technology and to learn to use it to solve your own challenges in a safe and useful way. So we've come up with an activity that we think is pretty great. It's called the Chatbot Imagination Lab, and it's an AI chatbot that you control completely. You control it as an educator, and the students get to control it as a student with really safe and responsible guardrails. So today I'm going to show you an example of how you can use this tool to expand on an existing activity, because AI is here as a general purpose tool that can help all aspects of work that we do. And so I want to show you how you can apply it to something very specific that's not about learning about AI. So I'm going to show you an example of this. This is a great project by Microbit and BBC, which is a playground survey, and there's different activities in here. And the one that I'm going to extend today is called the Investigating Biodiversity Workshop. So the core is not technology, it's about biodiversity. And so they already have this fantastic workshop about this, and where the kids basically use a little microcontroller called a microbit to collect information about their playground and about the number of unique animals and plants that they can find in their playground. So how it works is that they have a simple program on that microbit where they press button A. Here's a close-up of the microbit. So they press button A whenever they find an animal, and they press button B over here whenever they find a plant. And that increments a counter inside. It shows it on the screen there. And then they can do this activity with the class where they fill in their number, the number of animal species they logged, the number of plant species that they logged. And then there's some great teacher instructions here where you can do some math connection. How do you calculate the average or the mean? What are different kinds of methods of calculating averages, and what do you use those for in different circumstances? And then, like any good inquiry learning activity, there's these open-ended questions for discussing what they've found and what else do they want to find out. So fantastic workshop. So the way that we're extending it is, part of this is all manual. We've got the transcribing of the information. That makes sense. But this stuff like this, like the class average, finding that out, you have to go and talk to all your peers and figure out what their numbers are and kind of do a lot of manual kind of legwork to figure that out. So what we're doing is we're creating two things. We're creating a network of different microbits to share this information. So here's the system diagram. So the first step is to actually have all of these student microbits over here on the left, actually have them talking to a kind of central control microbit that can collect and aggregate all of that different information. And so that's not new to our workshop. That's already built into the microbit. It has this fantastic radio transmit and receive functionality that can happen. But the user interface on this is pretty limited. You've got some buttons, you got a little screen. So how can we actually talk to this to do the data analysis, to find out what all the different data points are, and to even do some of the analysis itself, like add up all of the values and then divide it by the number of samples so you can get the average. How can we do that work inside of there and then get it out with using this tiny screen? So that's where the Chatbot Imagination Lab comes in. It is a web-based tool that talks to that microbit over its USB cable that's just plugged into the same USB cable used to program it in the first place. So it talks to that and can find out information from it. And so that's the core of this activity, is actually the students then developing that chatbot to actually go back and forth, analyzing the data and finding out some interesting things about it. So how does this work? So let's have a look at the microbit itself, and I can show you. So, all right, here we've got the microbit itself. So here's a microbit already pre-programmed to collect the data. So I can press this button here and increment the number of animals up to 6 now. Press it again, animals up to 7. And I can press this one over here to increase the plants. That's up to 5 now. That's up to 6. So I got, and I can check the numbers at any time by pressing this button at the top to see the animals and the plants that are in there. And that's already built into the code. So there's the animals and then the plants that it shows us. So then the network kind of control microbit is over here. So that's that's connected by this cable to my computer, and it can talk to our interface at any time. So let's have a look at that interface. So we've got a tool called the Chatbot Imagination Lab. And this is open-ended. It can do all kinds of different things, and it's controlled entirely by its response library, are the things that it can say. So in this case, it has some kind of information that it can give about what this project is, and then it also has these commands that it can send to the network. You can see this one at the bottom there, max animals requested from microbit network. That's a command that it can send over the network and get some information back. And here's some examples of those questions and how it can grab that. So if you ask it different questions, it can find out that data. So let's actually try this out. Let's put it into action. So if you go to the chatbot and I press play to start it up here, it starts empty. There's no answers in here at all. So let's switch over here so you can see me and the microbits at the same time, so you can see the system all working together. So to customize it, it needs to have that response library. All it knows to start with is, sorry, I'm not sure the correct answer. It can't say anything. So let's give it a name to start with too. It's a playground biodiversity survey. So we've got that. And now how the response library, in our activity guide, we have some sample responses that you can just paste in here to get started. So you have something that's working to start with. So let me show you that. So down here in the activity guide, there's the chatbot starter script of just a bunch of lines that is a helpful starting point. So you can see there's that information stuff at the top, and then there's these different commands that it can send to the microbit network. And every command is formatted in the same way. You've got the data analysis command, you've got the max, the min, the mean, median, mode, the number of samples, and just the whole data list. Those are the things it knows how to do. And then the next word is just what data set, animals or plants. And then the rest is just informational for the user to just kind of see what's going on there. So let's take that whole list and copy it, and we'll paste it in here, submit that in, and now that is our response library, all the things that it knows how to say. So now let's try it out. So, and before we try it out, we have to click this little button at the bottom here to connect to the microbit so that it knows where to talk to the microbit. And you will see over in the screen over here, when you click that button, you get this little message from your browser just saying, is that what you really want to do to connect to the serial port? Yes, we do. We connect to there. Okay, great. And let me bring back my screen. Okay, so I've pasted in all of my responses into here, and I've connected to the microbit. And now I can start talking to it. And I literally mean talk to it. You can click this microphone here and say things like, what's the maximum number of animals that anyone has found?
Max animals requested from microbit network.
And it's querying the network, and it found it. And how did it do that? So I've got 2 microbits connected up to the network right now, but there can be a class full. And if you want to just use the data, just the raw data, rather than asking it to do some data analysis, you can ask for that too. Give me the data for animals.
Data animals requested from microbit network.
Great. So it just queried the network. It found there were 2 microbits on the network, and it found the number of animals that those 2 collected. And I can do the same thing for plants as well. So fantastic. So as a teacher, I can immediately use this to help kids do this work here, because we've got this worksheet that we want them to be able to fill out. And that average, how do they do that? They need the data. So now I can use this chatbot here to get that data for them. And then they can do the math from there. And there's all kinds of different ways to customize this. I'm going to show you the customizing it first with the by editing the chatbot responses. So as I was saying earlier, there's different kinds of data analysis you can do here, right? There's the mean, median, and mode. When do you use those different things? Well, one, I think, really useful thing about the median is finding the middle data point and giving it out. So it's really not as kind of, it's not as swayed by the end members that might have a really high number or a really low number. So that's useful for a lot of different situations. And one of those situations might be if some people are done collecting their data, but not everybody, and some people are still collecting it. So some people's numbers might be artificially low because they're not finished yet. So that's a kind of useful thing to do, to use that when it's useful. So I can ask a question to the chatbot that it's not going to be able to answer yet. So let's try it. Give me the average number of animals, except not all students have finished collecting their animal data yet.
Mean animals requested from microbit
so it
network.
Just did the mean. It didn't understand that was a good thing to do here, right? It found the mean, fine, but in this case, I think the median would have been better. So what we can do now is put in a better answer into the response library so that we can have it give a better result. And this is the iteration loop with the students. So if we know that in that situation the median is better, we can add a new response along that line. So what we can do, we can click this to record it. And so the message I think I'll say will be median animals requested from the network because not all students have finished collecting their data yet. There we go. So now that's added in there. And now I can try the exact same question again. I'll just put that in there, send it, and see if we get a better answer this time.
Median
yes,
animals
we do.
Requested
so
from the
that
network
so we've added a new response, but
have finished collecting their
actually,
data yet.
In this case, it's the same because there's only 2 in the network. But we've added to the knowledge and instructions of our chatbot by giving it better responses with more context in them. How does that work? So on the back end of this tool is actually a full-featured large language model that's being used to select the responses. As you know, it's not safe to put ChatGPT in front of kids because of hallucinations, bias, and all kinds of things, because that generated text can be wildly inaccurate and kids just don't know yet. They haven't developed the skills to be able to safely interact with a raw model like that. This tool has strong guardrails on it so that it will only ever answer these things. These are the only responses it will ever give, the ones that you choose to enter into it. So because of that, those strong guardrails mean that you're in control of what it can say. And by adding in that context to the answer, you can actually guide when to give those answers. But because you are the one who came up with the answer, then of course you realize that it's your responsibility to make sure that that's a good answer. And you can test and iterate and adapt this. And so this way kids can learn by doing that. AI systems need the right knowledge and instructions in order to do their job. They're not just a magic oracle that can always give the right answer. They need this knowledge and instructions in order to do that properly. So that's why we think it's a really powerful workshop for that reason as well. So that's the overview. There's lots more detail, of course, in the full workshop guide. So I encourage you to check that out and try it out and let us know what you think. and let us know what you build out of this too, because this is a completely open-ended tool. It can be adapted for all kinds of things, and we've built a lot of different kinds of workshop actual examples from this. So there's things from, we have a misinformation debunker workshop that we've developed, which uses research and then starts with kind of having some kids develop a personal preferences bot where it talks about what their own personal preferences are to kind of debunk people's ideas of what they might like or not like, and then moves into the kind of larger things and answers some scientific questions with some real information behind that. We've got workshops on creating a puppet show so that you can have a script in there instead of a Q&A. It's a script that you can go back and forth with your puppet creature that you create, since it has the text-to-speech, the voice recognition, and that back and forth kind of thing is quite possible. So try some of these things out, make something awesome, and let us know what you make. Thanks very much.